Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Next on the agenda is the roll call. Let the minutes show that all 5 board members were present. Next will be the approval of the agenda.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into informational items, first is the principal's report. Did everybody get a chance to review those, read them? Rob, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Did I include something that looks like this in your packet? Okay. That was the explanation for let's see, second to bottom paragraph about our what we're doing to kind of maximize some space and squeeze a little bit more juice out of that turnip. So, do you understand? Did everybody understand what my drawing there was and how that's going to look next year? So those smaller rooms that we're building are going to be actual rooms, not just a curtain or a particle board office partition. Those are going to be real walls there. Most notably, down there in the corner, the FRC Family Resource Center. So that one's going to be have its own exterior entry there at the front gates, the front doors there, and then right in front of it will be the speech suite. So we'll have 2 small rooms for those ladies as well. But we're going to be okay for at least through next year, but we're probably going to be running out of space really quickly starting next year. So that was the one thing I wasn't sure everybody understood or not. The rest is kind of just wrapping things up, and we had a very nice end to our school year. So.
Rob, can I ask you about that?
Yes.
If that's got its own entrance, what's the safety and security on that?
The safety and security at this point is just going to be a buzz-in door system, and probably the same 3M material that's on the exterior doors of the main building. But there will be no secretary there to man a lobby door or anything like that. But the reason they do that is just for access in the summertime when potentially the rest of the building isn't available. So those things were addressed best we could. But,
So like the FRC, or yes, will have their own, like, they can hit a button and their door will open?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the plan, at least right now. So, so if they didn't know someone, they could obviously talk to them and get them through another door, or get them verified in some way before letting them on right on in. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Rob? No. Anybody have any other questions they want to for the middle school or high school?
I have a couple of questions on the high school. I don't know how we can address them tonight, but one was Joanne had submitted a letter that showed all the accomplishments, and I wasn't clear on there, but it looks like there's a decent number of kids that were neither college nor career ready, and I didn't know if you could get any more information about what population those students are and what percentage that was.
Okay.
And then the other thing there is just looking for any ways we can encourage more participation in the governor's schools.
Okay.
So I think we had maybe 7, I think, total. But anything we can do. There was nobody in the governor's school for entrepreneurs, for instance, and I know that's another big program. So anything we can do to encourage that, I think through the school would be fantastic.
Okay. I can get some more detailed data for everybody on just those students who were not classified as either college or career ready, and provide some more detail on that. also the interventions that were attempted to help those kids get to where they were college or career ready. I can provide that to you in a Friday email.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? Next, moving into construction report, Jeremy?
All right, we, had the track project still lingering around. We do have a scheduled walkthrough on Monday with all the parties involved. We're actually gonna mark a lot, and then we're gonna dig about 8 lanes wide and about 30 feet long, in about 2 different places, to kind of see what's under there, because we don't wanna just start patching and then do a overlay and then have more come up later on. We need to figure out what the problem is. Wriggler's still playing nice with us, so they're gonna go ahead and do all that. Hopefully we can figure something out. I mean,
Let me add something to that, Jeremy. Wriggler is being very cooperative with us right now, so I'm trying to play nice also. However, I'm about to the point to enlist Mr. Ruberg and his services. The problem with that is, that's going to incur a cost upon us, and it would likely drag this process out even farther. And I really don't want to be dealing with this, next fall, next winter, when it's impossible to do any meaningful work on the track. So we'll be there at 1:30 on Monday when they do this work and try to get a plan to bring some resolution to this, but I'm tired of dealing with this. We were lucky this year, and we didn't have to cancel or move any track meets. We didn't have any kids get hurt, no falls because of the bubbles or anything. And Wriggler is working with us, and Jeremy and Emmett have worked really hard to resolve this issue. But we're trying to bring some closure to this.
we, kind of, so to say, kicked the can down the road because of track meets and all. We wanted to make sure we had all of our events in, but now we can actually tear in and try to find out. Before, we kind of had to be really gentle with the track, and we just had to keep them moving, or otherwise it wouldn't run track. Can't have that. So we kind of pushed it back a little bit, but now that track's fully over. I think the last one was today, right? The last time we ran on that track, what Phil told me was today, or yesterday.
Yesterday, the state meet was today.
Okay, so now we can kind of dig into it. We're gonna start that process on Monday.
Did we get closure on the lab analysis? I know that was a lingering item.
They said it was, everything that they found was expected, and they went back and kind of backtracked and said that everything they found was consistent with the blacktop material, and we probably won't be able to find any traces of anything if it was on there before. So if it did leak some kind of fluid or something, they said it's probably not gonna find it. It's this far down the road.
Yep.
So,
That makes sense.
but they're not even saying it's that. Regular thinks it's water coming up from underneath. So when we dig into that, find where the seams are, pavement, that's kind of more where we're getting at now. So we had that. That'll start roughly about the same time as the turf is also scheduled to start coming up that week. So I think they were pushing till June 1st. So we're gonna have the turf and the track at the same time. Hopefully the turf gets a lot better. The materials for the turf are already on there. They've already been ordered. We did the process of. They said they're scheduled for delivery next week, and we're gonna start tearing it up and getting rid of the turf, I guess. Must be other plans. Early childhood. We got a walkthrough scheduled on Monday. It's kind of getting pushed back just a hair. So we're looking at mid-June is what they're saying is the first final punch list. They probably said they won't get full occupancy till about July. He was saying July 14th, but he's thinking it might be a little early. He's trying to pay himself. But we're still moving in with furniture and everything like that, so it's still moving ahead. The one wing, he said, is complete, so that's what we're pretty much gonna punch on Monday, is the classroom section. they said that one's fully complete, and they're just wrapping up some of the materials, getting the fire alarms going, stuff like that. Couple doors, our work company ordered wrong, they went to go put them in there. I looked down and they're wrong. So they said it would be about a month lead time on those to get those replaced. Unfortunately, that's the last thing they put up, so, because they don't want to bang the doors. So, when I caught it the day they were putting it up, so at least we got it that quick. I think the access and controls and alarm systems are all pretty much up and going down there now. I haven't set anything yet, but they're fully functional now and tested. All the backup battery lights are all tested, and I've been trained on those. The solar shading is the only thing that is not in yet, as far as material at this point. That's about it on the early childhood. The paving for the early childhood center is going to be done on they said the week of June 10th. I talked to the Wriggler today, and they're going to be paving it around the 14th, they said. And they're pretty much going to do it at the same time as they're doing our other stuff out front. So I think on that Friday or Saturday, something like that, is when they're going to start, and they're going to close down that front and just do it all at one time and knock it out. Which kind of works for us, but it's going to make it more uniform than patching it in, you know. It'll look a lot better that way. That's what I have for the early childhood center. Middle school renovation, it started up. We've spent quite, there was about 10 on average a day moving stuff in and out of this building. We got it done in about 3 days, everything. Pretty quick. Guys are beat up. I'm beat up. They've actually already tore down a lot of ceilings. They put grid back up. Some of the pads have been done. Some of the lighting's actually already going back in, like the science wings. So they're moving right along. I think they're still demoing cable out, and I think on the second floor over here, they're still demoing ceilings. Most of the boiler work is already out. So almost all that's demoed. I think they got, they said tomorrow they're going to finish pulling the rest of the boiler out downstairs, and that'll be almost all the boiler except in the middle school gym area. They're waiting to do that at a later date because they're using that for staging. I guess they concentrate on this second in HVAC, which is a lot further than the elementary school was at this time. We're way ahead. Pretty much where we're at on the middle school. That's all the projects we have, other than the elementary that you were talking about earlier. We're going to start that up next week. We're going to start doing the HVAC and the walls, the lighting, doors, stuff that we have to do there. Fire alarms, we do have to upgrade some part of the fire alarms. So, that's a relatively small job compared to some of the other things. So, hopefully that'll be done in about a month and a half. That's what I'm shooting for. I'll keep you updated once they start getting going on that too.
Anybody have any questions for Jeremy? Was that in here? You said that was it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I saw you look back, I thought, oh, I want to rest.
I was double checking.
Okay.
I didn't miss one of my notes here.
Does anybody have any questions for Jeremy? No? No. Thank you, Jeremy. Board members, does anybody have a problem with moving Q, which is approval of the hardship graduation for policy 08.1132 up to right now so that they could go? Is that okay with everybody?
That's good.
Okay, all right. So, first we're gonna go into approval of hardship graduation per policy 08.1132. Is there a
I'll
first?
make the motion.
First by David. Any discussion? Is there a second? Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. And, Kyle, director, you have them?
No, I
You
don't,
have it?
I don't have it. I was asking.
We'll get one to you. That's okay. It's done.
Yeah,
Let me go look in the assessor's office.
Yeah, it's here somewhere.
I'll go look in the office.
That's
I know it's done, because I walked it down.
Okay, while we're waiting on Dee Dee, we'll go on and do the attendance enrollment, and when she comes back, we'll present it to you. Sorry about that, I thought it was here. Okay, moving on will be the attendance enrollment report. There it is. Where are we at? Can't see it over there, I should.
Month 10.
I don't remember.
At the end of month 10, our enrollment was 1685.
Started with 1678.
So we're, okay.
Oh, we really grew at that elementary school.
And we'll have the final numbers next month, is that right?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions about that? Looks like the high school had some pretty good attendance. 98.
Finals week.
Well, that's not that month, that's,
Oh, that's true, it's not.
no, that's because they're out of absences and they got none. That's not, they have no more. They're there. Yeah, that would be the finals one, I know. If not the case. All right. Next would be personnel. Did you guys have a chance to look over that big list of things?
There's something before that.
You skipped.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped data, sorry. Data, did you guys have a chance to look over that? This will be Jason.
Yep.
That was a lot of stuff in there. Do you want to talk about it, or do you just want to see if anybody has questions?
Well, I guess for the new members, basically KDE requires us to give you a notice or an informational piece of material each year, kind of detailing what we do here as a school district to protect our data and our security and stuff like that. So for the most part, this report has not changed since last year, but if you go to, I think the last page, there should be a bulleted list down here, 1 through 21. There are 18 through 21 is some additional things that we're doing. Number 18 is we're promoting with the staff this year to collect less data and only data that you need. That was recommended by the state, so we took that on as well. And then we are doing random security checks, software. We used to do them kind of throughout the year, spring break, fall break, things like that. So now we're just going to do random stuff also, just in case we catch something. And then Kevin can probably talk more about the Cyber Pro insurance. And then the last one is device screen timeouts. So when you're using a device and you walk away from it, it's going to lock after 29 minutes. And then your accounts, if you walk away from your account's going to lock after 29 minutes. So we put those security measures in. So, any questions? All right. Cool.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
Yep.
Okay, now is the personnel. We got it. Good. You want to come up here? I'll present that to you. Congratulations, yes. If you guys want to go, feel free to.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Congratulations. Okay, moving into, other.
Just a couple things. I think as everybody's aware, we have hired a new director of people personnel. It's Mr. Hartman, so congratulations. And,
Rob?
condolences. I've shared with Rob that for the next year, he's gonna be drinking out of a fire hose. We also have posted Rob's position as of today, and according to state law, the site-based council at the elementary has to receive principal selection training, and that has been scheduled for June the 13th. Also, according to state law, the superintendent and his or her designee, can sit on the council and be a part of that selection process. Mrs. Gregg has graciously agreed to sit on the council and help in that process. My rationale was that she's very familiar with the elementary, much more so than I am. The staff members feel more comfortable with her, and I have every confidence that they will select the best fit for that position. It is also our intention to survey all staff members of the elementary so that they can have a voice in this important process. The job has to be posted for 15 days, and it's our goal to get someone hired certainly by the end of June, so that person can begin their contract on July the 1st. And one other thing, we had a wonderful day of training. We hired a gentleman by the name of Brian Mindler to come in and train all of our staff, and he did a fantastic job. And his presentation was on motivating and managing hard-to-reach, uninterested, and disruptive students. And I think that's something our staff, we have room for improvement there. And we may have Mr. Mindler come back next year and work with small groups of teachers as they have team or department plannings, just to help. As you're well aware, our dynamics are changing, and we have some room for improvement when it comes to working with some students. So those are my three things.
Did anyone else have anything?
I got a text from Erin Korstein. They're in the Quest parent meeting right now, and she asked that I kind of notify you and invite you all. Monday and Tuesday from 8 to noon are Quest presentations. So I will email that to you first thing
Okay.
tomorrow morning, but that's just your heads up if you'd like to come, and it'll be in this
I'll
room.
be here.
And you can duck in and duck out
Right.
if you've got just a few minutes in passing sometime.
It's either here or in the library. I thought you told me it was in the library.
I don't know, this says high school, this says multi-purpose room,
Okay.
but,
Okay.
okay. So,
Thank you, Carrie. I had a couple things on here, because I didn't see it on here with Caitlin. What are we looking like for the preschool, like number-wise, out of district-wise, where are we?
I believe we have, so our number of students returning is around 30.
Okay.
We have, as of, after we did our screenings in April, we had 21 enrolled in the RTI process, for the summer. And then, I think since then, we've gotten at least 5 or 6 more for, screenings. And then tuition-wise, we're not sure yet on the number of students that are going to be enrolled, that are going to do the extended care program. We're right now in the process of trying to get that information, to the parents and the ones that we know are returning. And then as far as just tuition, we only have 2 currently signed that are interested in that, so.
And when it's just tuition, does that make a difference if it's in district or out of district, or?
We originally thought that we were going to, look at in-district students first,
Right.
and then, include,
Right.
kids. But that was gonna be based on numbers, so right now, there is space available.
Okay.
What are we doing to promote that? Are we doing anything? Have we said
Well,
flyers?
we're
and
gonna
all?
have, we just got our, little brochures in. We're planning an open house, but we have to wait on that because of, we want people to be able to see it, because it's amazing on the inside, but, we're waiting on permission.
One of the things we're waiting on now is furniture. The furniture's been ordered, but it looks like that'll be, help me out, Kevin.
First, the week of the 8th of July is tentative ship date for that stuff, so we hope to.
We're gonna publicize an open house as soon as we know for sure when that's gonna be in. The because when I want people to go in there, I want them to see everything's finished, it's sparkling new, I want to generate some excitement, so we have to wait for all these other dominoes to fall.
So I guess my final question would be, when are we gonna notify people that are tuition based, that they've been accepted? Like, because I know they're in limbo, they want to send them here, but they don't have a backup plan yet, and these other places are requiring like that kind of stuff, so
I mean, if you can encourage those people to reach out to myself or Cinda, just so we can, talk with them.
well, I
Kinda see
think
where
they
their
did
numbers
and
are.
didn't get anything. Yeah,
I apologize for that.
that's okay, yeah, I think they were told we're not accepting out of district kids. So that was the confusion, I was like, I thought we were, and then if we are, when are we deciding? And I didn't really know any dates to give them when they were asking, so I didn't know if we narrowed that down anymore.
Well, when we had talked, I guess in your working session, it was talked about that we would do just, only out of district would be employee kids at this time. Am I wrong?
I believe that was the original intent.
Is that it?
Any
I don't
out
I
of
don't
district,
recall
talking about
any
out of
out of district would be employee kids.
Mhm.
You know, if we get to the third week in July, and we still have, here's my concern, is that we've not hired the fourth teacher yet.
Right.
Because we don't have the numbers to justify that.
Right,
If we have 3 classrooms, and we have room in those 3 classrooms, and out-of-district students who want in, who are not employee children, then I think we've got to take a look at that.
yeah,
And we currently have it as 4-year-olds, so we also have the option to look at accepting 3-year-olds for tuition. And, people have approached me about that idea too, so that's something to think about.
I think where the confusion came in, because I actually remember that discussion, and the scenario that we were discussing was, if an in-district student wanted to come and an out-of-district teacher kid wanted to come, who would we put in line first? I remember that conversation, and that's when we talked about, well, yeah, we would, in-district students. I think that's
Then
probably where the
teachers' kids,
confusion.
and yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's probably.
But I
where the
don't
confusion
ever
was.
recall saying no to out-of-district.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no.
that was never, yeah.
Yeah.
But I
We
think
just
it might have
discussed
been,
it.
I think, yeah, like definitely in-district teachers, staff, whatever, and then opening it up to, yeah.
But we just kind of stopped it at that conversation.
Right,
when we were
right.
talking.
Because no one really knew.
We have a sizable estimate of tuition in our budget as well.
Yeah, we have, that equates to like, the amount of money to like 10 kids, for the 30,
Yeah, 30,000.
approximately 30 weeks, 10 kids paying $100 tuition. So it's not the amount of tuition that's budgeted, while that seems like a large chunk, that's not many kids, you know what I mean? So,
Right, but
I would love to get more revenue than that, all that.
We've got
try to
20% of that.
Yeah, and we for sure
number,
have there are definitely people interested in the aftercare for the ones that qualify. We just don't know
People don't wanna
the number.
get their kids off the bus at noon?
I mean, I know you're just taking this over, so that's why I just wanted to know if you knew, and if you don't, if you can find out some dates and get back with me, even before the next meeting, just because people are starting to ask more and more, now it's finished, or looking finished, and I have nothing to tell them, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
okay, yeah, if you don't care, just when you guys get those dates, if you email them out to us so we can,
And the open house date for sure is just gonna be dependent on, I think there's talk about tying it in with something that's gonna be happening on campus here anyway, like open enrollment or something like that, so.
pay their fees or whatever, that
Yeah.
stuff, beginning of August.
But yeah, for sure that.
When do they start? When will preschool start? They're behind us typically. Was it Labor Day or something?
No, they'll be the Monday after.
Oh, the Monday after.
Yeah, they
Oh,
start later.
I thought we started,
But it's just
later
2 days.
here.
Yeah, just 2
I
days.
guess that's just private ones. Okay.
And they do finish up a couple of days early.
Yeah.
Like the week before.
And fee and schedule pickup is July 31st.
Oh, is it really?
Mhm.
No, I haven't put that in my calendar.
I think there was something a little bit earlier than that.
I think there's open enrollment.
Yeah,
Oh.
that we were maybe hoping that we would be able to.
You ready, Mike?
As soon as we get a hard date on furniture delivery and final punch list and all those things,
Yeah.
we'll set that date and advertise it heavily in the community, so.
It looks like it'll be mid-July or later, because the punch list you were saying was
Mid-July.
14th or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, well,
furniture
that's-
shipping the 8th.
We're gonna get full occupancy on
Just,
the
I keep it,
fourteenth.
I gotta put it together. That'll be a lot longer. And then I have one other question, and Rob, you brought it up. When you're in your thing, do we have plans for elementary? Are we looking ahead, like what we're gonna need to do? I know you did the long-term planning, but I don't remember where their elementary was on that list. I knew the roof was on the list, and we did that. Where are we?
We're gonna have to build an addition.
Right, but are we preparing, are we working on that? Are we?
We're gonna start that up next year.
What's next year, August, like July 1st, or is that like next school year?
Probably have to start exploring it.
When school starts back.
Yeah, I'm gonna say probably about when school
So after
starts
the-
back.
We,
I
We
would
got
anticipate a
wrapped.
bond sale sometime in the
Yeah.
spring,
Yeah,
and hopefully start on in the summer, next summer.
when Rob shared with you a drawing of some changes to the elementary, when we had that meeting, we literally
That-
did some sketches and looked at where can we put an addition. We looked at the facilities plan, so we've started those discussions, but it's.
That was to
that's
kick that
gonna have to
can
be our
down the
next
road for a
project.
year, because quite frankly, we don't have the bonding capacity for it right now,
Right.
nor the resources to manage another $3 million project.
right,
But even beyond that, we need to be more efficient with our space before we add more space, and we had some, rooms that, full classrooms that are
Right.
being utilized that, where a half classroom would do.
right.
So we're taking steps in that direction, but yeah, we have a
Kind of a, okay, because I hadn't heard it yet, so I was,
The
Rob
next,
scared me.
the next few months, the next few months, we have work sessions, so that could be a topic of
That will
discussion
be-
during one of our work sessions.
Yeah, I mean, there are some hurdles to overcome there as far as like, okay, the construction's gonna go on kind of where the playground's at, like, some shifting there, and it won't be ready for, like, it's obviously not gonna be ready for this coming year or the next year. It might be like a mid-year thing, if they don't start until next June.
Like when we moved
They're not-
into the high school in
Yeah.
December,
Yeah, so it just depends on how quick, and that largely depends on whether it's up to, so it's a 2-year,
I mean, can't we just move the playgrounds to that baseball field that way?
it's one of the ideas. We had some other issues out there, too, with parking and things at the elementary, so we haven't worked out all of that stuff yet, but, that is one of the issues that we'll have to overcome, is we'll have the playground area, obviously they can't go through a construction site to get there, so,
Right,
we'll have to make some
right,
improvements there probably first.
gotcha, okay, all right. Well, Rob just scared me a little bit.
We're good for the time being.
Yeah,
So
the
don't worry,
time, well,
yeah.
but you can't just pop up a building in a month, I mean, you're like next year, and I'm like, oh, well, these take a year or two to get all this right, so where are we at in this? And Heather's long-term, so I didn't know, all I knew was the roof, that's all I remember was elementary roof, and we did that.
Typically on our facilities plan, we have additional classrooms spec'd for each of the buildings, just in case we need, we didn't think 2 years after we opened the high school that we need more classrooms down there, but we did, so those kind of things are always included.
Okay, good, okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else have anything else? No? Okay, moving on to audience of citizens. We have Ms. Canasser, and, her topic is our kids, so.
I hide behind this table, so I won't show.
Oh, okay.
Well, you
She
come over.
needs to vote.
I got you.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, I know most of you, but I don't know, I know one or two of y'all there, but you don't know me, you probably won't want to. But, I've taught here for I've taught school over 30 years, and most of mine have been here. And I have subbed since I retired. And most people think I'm crazy, which I am. But my kids also went to school here, high school, and this is the best school. They love it. They begged me to come here. I taught at Christian school, and my son was in sports, and he begged me, "Oh, Mom, please." I said, "If you go, you are not allowed to talk about one teacher. That's the deal." "Okay, Mom, okay." So anyway, I know quite a bit about the area and about most of the kids. I just want to tell you that I think one of the main problems in the school is discipline. Would you think that's hard to do discipline? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, I always had trouble with it because you're supposed to do everything and be consistent, always the same. And actually, that's very hard because their lives are different, their home lives, some steep and some are great. But anyway, once, when I taught in third grade, Rob, I don't think you were here yet. They used to give, one year they gave flags. They would do anything to get kids to be good in the lunchroom. As you know, they throw food at each other. They do everything, and whoever is in the lunchroom, that is a hard job, isn't it? It is horrible. So I don't think you started it. They gave flags to the class that was the best that year. So, you know, you always want your kids to do good, not just because one, they're supposed to act good, and the other one, it's supposed to reflect on you. You know, oh, our kids got the flag. So my kids got the flag one time, this big flag, and oh, they're so happy. They swung that thing around going to class, and we all, woo, we're #1 kids. Okay, so we turned that in, and it was a few weeks later, and a lunch lady came up to me and said, while they were in the line, and said, all right, Miss Cancer, she said, your class was the worst class in the whole school today at lunch. Well, can you imagine going from that to that? Well, I was so mad. By the time I got into the room, I was steaming. So I sat them down and I said, all right, I want to know what caused you all to be so bad today. Well, there was silence. I said, we're not going to recess. You're not doing anything, so you tell me. And this little boy, they call me Miss C because nobody can answer. I've been called canister and everything else. I said, Miss C, we had brownies today and we were trying to see who could make the biggest turd. Now, you tell me how you can have a straight face and be a good disciplinarian. I had to turn my head to the board, then I turned around and I said, this don't do anymore. But, so, that was one thing that happened with the discipline. Another thing that happened was, is the discipline is like when I grew up, and when you grew up, I know a lot of you are not older than me. I'm probably the oldest person in this class. But I know you've heard this for your sick of it from your parents. When we grew up, there were not problems in the classroom, and everybody was good because they busted bottoms. And actually, it's too bad we can't bust you today, right? Of course, you're crazy, but it'd be nice. Well, anyway, my mom and dad, of course, taught me this, that you behave, blah, 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 blah. But there's one thing for sure, that I was never, ever the teacher's pet. I got spanked every year through the 8th grade for blabbing. I know you find that hard to believe. But we obeyed our teachers. They told us we paid for it. And that was consistency. If you knew you were a brat, you were going to get it. Well, when my kids went to high school, the big new technical use was the telephone, the big cell phones. And it wasn't a problem then, because if they had the cell phones, they had to keep them in their locker. Were you in on this, or were you too young?
We're too old.
Well, I was gonna say I'm too old.
Oh, too old.
We didn't have
Well,
that,
okay, well, I don't know if anybody's taking notes, but I'm serious about these things, and I don't know if it'll matter to you, but it matters to me. It's not like that now with cell phones. I hate cell phones in the classroom, and I know what I'm talking about, because I've subbed there, and I've subbed in the high school. They do not just use them after they work. They're allowed to use them almost for the classes that I've subbed in. They can keep them down here, and when they're through with their work, they can listen to music or da-da-da-da, which you don't know all the time what they're doing, unless you just stick your eyeballs every minute and go around and look. Well, one day I was teaching, and it was kind of boring, but we were reading, and I'd already taken up 2 cell phones. And then all of a sudden, I know I would have laughed if I was in high school, but I was trying to get this over with and teaching, and all of a sudden there's bird sounds from the cell phone. So I thought, well, I gotta do something. I gotta act mean. So I went around and I checked, you know, just walked through the aisles, trying to act like I knew where it was, which I didn't. It looked mean. So this actually happened. I went by a girl in high school. I didn't say a thing, I just went by, and she said, "It wasn't me, and you're not taking my cell phone." Exactly like that. I do not call the superintendent, I do not call the principals, blah, 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 unless it's necessary. If you know me, Rob, you know that that's true. But I had it, because one thing I do not like disrespectful kids, no matter where it is. So I called, and the powers that be, I finally got one. This was at the end of class, and I said, you know, that's not respectful. I was trying to calm myself. I wanted to, well. And I said, you're not supposed to, act like that. Well, the bell rang, and I thought, I'm not letting this go. So I called, and this is my answer. Whether they tell you this or not, I'm telling you the truth. They said, well, the next time you sit in there, and that girl's there, we'll send her up to another class. Teachers won't tell you all this stuff because they're afraid. I'm not. And have I always been this way? Yes, I have. Whether it means people being mad at me or not. I believe in standing up instead of talking about it behind people's backs to do something about it. And I am telling you, something needs to be done about the cell phones. When they went to school before you, honey, they had to put their cell phones in the lockers. And then at the end of the day, they could get them out. Well, I'm sure, and I know that the alternative school has the same problem. Of course, theirs is worse. But I know one way to settle it. Don't let them have them. How many of you have heard of anybody having problems with their cell phone? Anybody besides me? Well, that's my britches. Well, they do. They just hadn't told you. And that's a good way for kids to text about each other. Because there's all kinds of, especially girl problems. You know what I'm saying. Okay, so that's one. Another one that I'm concerned about is, take this down, is at the middle school. I think that you all might be doing something about this, but I just want it to be known. When you come in the door, where it used to be high school, where you come into the middle school, that is also called the box. That is the most horrible, terrible place for kids to be. I know that I had a grandma that told me that when she went to pick up her grandchild, kid said, "What are you doing here? Who did you come to pick up?" Business people come here. They come to that window. Do you know who has to deal with all of them? The secretary. Our secretary has resigned. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. All day long they come. And if whatever, they have to sit there. Well, they don't care. I've had them ones get up and say, "I'm just going to the box." No fear. And sometimes you have professional people that come in here and they are there, goofing off, right there. And she is responsible for watching them, taking care of the phone, and doing everything else. And I'm telling you, they need to be moved. And I know money is everywhere, but surely we can squeeze out enough money to have, we need an aide, or we need somebody that'll be with them and make them, if they're in there, work. Okay, now answer this. You better raise your hand. How many of you have ever been in there and saw kids sitting there in the box? Anybody? Okay. So you know I'm telling you the truth. Oh, good, I've got one plus. All right. But I'm just telling you, please, do something about it. All right. Another thing, well, actually, in my whole life, since I've been involved, I have never, ever been to a school board. I've been once to thank them for putting up with my kids and for putting up with me 30 years, and that was a lot, I'm telling you. But I've never come to discuss stuff that really I care, that bothers me. I wouldn't be here if I didn't care, and I would certainly wouldn't sub if I didn't care. And I've had surgery on both my feet, and I put it off for 3 years because I cannot sub, and they know this. But I have to use both arms to get up the steps. My feet are that bad. So I don't know if I can come back, so you don't have to worry about never ever hiring me to be a sub again. But anyway, I might take this sweater off. My main concern tonight, besides these little things, you can't get everything. And do I think that this is a good school? I love this school. I brag about this school. Oh, my kids went to White Garden. I teach at Walton Raymond. But there are some things we can improve on. Yes, we have wonderful teachers. Yes, we do. And I am proud of my teachers and principals and so forth. But I did not know about one part of our school because I was never involved in it until this year. So I hope you won't throw potatoes at me when I do. And that is the alternative school. The alternative school, I know it's a lot of problems. I know things you don't think I know about it, what has happened. I do know it, a lot of it. But I think sometimes that they're like they have leprosy. They're over here, and the big school is over here. Now tell me if I'm wrong. First, they're never allowed to eat lunch or breakfast or anything with any other kids. Is that correct?
Never is a strong word.
I've never seen it.
I would say regularly.
Regularly, they are or are not?
They are not.
Okay, I do not think that they're allowed to go to any extracurricular activities. Like they cannot go to music, they cannot go to art, they cannot be on intramurals, etc. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am, it is. And it has been for some time.
Okay, I don't think it's right. Okay, I'm gonna give you just one or two little examples. Your kids, how many of you have kids? Probably all of you go to school. Okay. All right. I know you love your kids. All right, what do you do? Get up, honey, we gotta go to school. Or maybe get up, I smack you in the head. But we're going to school, eat your breakfast, blah, blah, blah. And then when they turn teens, of course, it's a little fighting. We're gonna do this whether you want to or not. Ooh, you hate me. All right. But your kids know one thing. They know you love them. Right? Well, this year I know of a boy that's on, I think he was on the steps over there. And his home life stinks. Actually, at the moment, he's homeless. He goes from house to house. I know this for a fact. He sleeps on couches and stuff. His house burned. He cried. He said, I've really never had anyone that ever cared about me. Do I know that they have bad mouths? I didn't. Actually, when I sat over there at before the very end of school, if I said, you all, I do not like that language, please do not say that. I do not want you to talk like that. You know what they said? I'm sorry. And they didn't do it. At the end of school, it was all chaos. I didn't go back after it's nearly in school because I don't think anybody cared about anything, so it was bad. But I have two little stories to tell you. One of them is about, besides this kid, there's a kid that you may have been in school with him, so I'm not going to tell you his name, but this boy, when he was in school, I heard people talk about him, the teachers, oh, you don't want him, oh, wow, he's horrible, oh, blah, they say he might beat you up, blah, 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 blah. Well, this boy's probably bipolar, and he needs help. This boy's dad beat him all the time when he was in high school. He used to be on the football team. When he was about 14 or 15, his dad was on drugs, and he said, I can't take it anymore. Sometimes, he works for us sometimes, and that's why I know. He slept in the grass some places when the weather was right. I'm not lying. He slept in grass. He slept wherever he could. He told me one time that the same thing. He said, nobody really ever helped me. And I'm not talking about people that, I know people try to help people. And I know Mr. Davis was wonderful. I'm not talking about him. But you cannot reach every kid I know. But my point is, do we try? If it's a troubled kid, do we think, I wonder what makes them that way? Or, I don't want that kid in my class, he sure is a brat, he's sure a burden. Do we think what they might be going through at their homes or no homes? Some of those kids that were in there, their parents made dope. One boy's house burned. So he's one of them that's out. Is he bad kid? Does he act bad? Yes. I just want to know, you think about this. What do you think you'd be like if you were raised like that? You think you'd be a nice citizen today? Or do you think you'd be shut up over there like, let's just try to pretend that they're not there? You know what? I don't care what the community thinks. I don't think we should put people like that. I'm not talking about they should be separate. I'm saying, if you're in the right, you should not care if the community thinks, oh, they're helping, oh, they should just keep them like they're in jail. No, you should not. And would I stand up for it? Yes, I would. And I'm telling you, if you all don't stand up to these kids and start helping them, they're going to be a failure. And they don't care. I don't care. I know my kids are loved. I know your kids are loved. These kids are not loved. I know they have emotional problems. Some of them. There's only one on the ICP. And I don't know who will be their main teacher next year. But I figure it'll be somebody that needed a job, probably doing some important thing. I don't know if I'm right or not, but I probably am. Okay. My daddy grew up, this is one of those stories I like, here she goes. With 10 or 11 brothers and sisters, they were poor, back in the Depression. Their mom gave them a biscuit, scrambled egg, and that was about it to take to school. They walked, there wasn't no bus. They had to walk. In the winter, they could go when they could. In the spring, they'd stop and help Dad plow. They probably was back then. So my daddy was way behind school when he was a kid, and he thought about quitting because he couldn't read very well. And he just thought, well, shoot, what difference does it make? Nobody in his family, I don't even know if they ever graduated from high school, but this teacher taught him. I think he did crying. He wasn't bad, but you know, some people are stinky. And he had a teacher. I guess he probably 14 or 15. Said to him, he has a country name, it was Elmer. He said, Elmer, you can do anything you put your mind to. And he changed his life. I'm serious, of his life. My dad was a county agent for Prairie County for years. They named the camp after him, a street, because he worked with poor people. He helped them. We used to make crafts. We got to keep one, the poor kids. And the other one went in the craft center, made money. It kept going and going. People could do stuff. He was known at that time. You don't know him, so I can brag. And he's in heaven. Did he make a difference? Yes, he still makes a difference in me. He's influenced my life, and it will all my life. Okay, so I'm about through. The last thing I'm going to say is, their reading program stinks. Have any of you ever been over there and read the stuff they have to do on the computer? Anybody? You it's horrible. I don't know that, and I'm not saying that I was ever Miss Wonderful, Brilliant, Miss Valedictorian USA. Don't shake your head, yes, like you know I wouldn't. But it's horrible. It's a newspaper junk, and they can't find the answers. I can find the answers, and these kids are special. I mean, you know, they have behavior. They can't just sit there there forever. That is all they do over there is be on the stinking computer. And I'm not saying computers aren't good, you know, that's not my thing. But I know that they can be helpful. But, you all, surely, there is a better way to help teaching than if you say, well, do you think you could do better? My answer is yes, I could. You can make it creative, you can bring stuff in there, just like you do in elementary. It can be on their level, but you've got to get them involved. Let them do stuff, not just sit there in that old room all day. Last year, I understand that they got to go to a horse barn that would have cost like $6,000, and the teacher got that so they could go. Is that true? Okay. And so they didn't have to pay for it. She brought her dog. She loves animals. The dog had his leg off, and he was deaf. And she took him in. She does that. And she was able to get a trainer, come in there and show those kids how to work with that dog. And so that gave the kids something else to do. She had incentives for them. One of them was food. You know, we all like that. But I'm saying she did try. I know she made mistakes. I know she didn't always do what she's told. I know that. But I'm saying, don't stop the good stuff that she started. I don't know of a teacher before that. Do you that had that kind of did that stuff with them? Does anybody know? So she's gone. But I'm saying to you, take the stuff that was good that she did and let's run with it. Let's not treat them like they have leprosy over there. Do you all know much about what goes on over there? You ever visit over there? Okay. That's all I have to say.
Well, I just want to tell you thank you for talking, for your passion and your dedication to the program, and obviously your love for the district. I would agree that there are some things that we're going to look into, and some things that we're just looking into it.
Okay.
Some of the programs, I've wrote down some notes. Some of the programs, I don't know if you're talking about, are the state mandated ones that they have to be on out there, because I work in a different district and those kids are on those, and that's what they have to do. It's not our choice. However, that's something we can definitely look into.
Well,
and if it's not, then we can look at doing what you said. I mean, I appreciate you telling us some of those things and your suggestions. I mean, as a teacher, you do see things, and as a substitute, you do see things that you know, and we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So we're not in this building every day like you are. We're not here, we're not there, whatever. You see way more than even a teacher at the high school sees, because you're in all buildings. So we appreciate your point of view, your dedication, everything that you've given to the district. And I took some notes, and it's definitely something that we will look into this summer before we, move forward and get the program rolling. Because I would agree with you that they are difficult children. They do things that are over when they're in their classrooms that are not to be tolerated, because you're talking about discipline, and they can't be tolerated in here, and they need to know their consequences are this is where you go when this happens. Can you graduate back over here? Yes, you can.
And
But you
they
have
need
to
a
prove
strong
it.
arm over there.
Right, they do, and that's,
They need a muscle man
agreed,
that they're
agreed.
afraid of. I mean, that you know,
That makes
that
them
they
work
don't
and
mind, but
respect.
that loves them
Mhm.
and
With a firm
cares
hand.
about them.
I agree. So I think that you brought some good points, and I think that you gave us some talking points, and there's definitely some things that we can look into, and there's always room for improvement. No one's perfect, no program is perfect, no district is perfect, and we will definitely take a look at that.
Thank you, and no person is perfect, and I certainly am not perfect, so don't look too close.
Well, we love you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for, yes, thank you, coming from you,
Well, thank
Yeah,
you.
I just want to say thank you so much for your courage and your compassion I know it takes a lot of nerve to get up there in front of everybody and to address a board and talk about that. I can't thank you enough. My kids love you, by the way, when they've had you for subs.
Oh, well, thanks.
They're always telling me stories about Mrs. C, so that's great. But I want to let you, I didn't want to interrupt you while you were talking, but you asked, if any of us had been into that school. I can only speak for myself personally. I've attempted and I've not been able to get access to the school. I was invited twice by a teacher into the school, and both times a superior to that teacher nixed it and would not allow me to come in. So I know personally I've tried.
Well, thanks for telling me that. Did you all hear that? He wasn't allowed. But just one more thing, just an example. And thank goodness I know most of you, and so you know me, so you love me anyway. But this is just a small example. That boy came in to get his, that's a big deal to him, to get his certificate. That is a big deal to him. And the teacher before would work with kids after school. She helped 3 get through this year. She stayed after school with him. And I just don't think it's the greatest thing to forget his certificate. I'm not mad at you, but I'm saying it to him, that's like a graduation. Would you like your kid to get up there and say, oh my goodness, we forgot his certificate? How would you feel? Okay, I've said enough, goodbye. You tell me about this new job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All.
Moving on to recommended board motions. First is the approval of the minutes. First by Heather. Discussion or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is approve the treasurer's report.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussion or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is approve order of the treasurer's bills.
I'll make it.
Good.
We'll give this one to David. Heather called me one. Question? Sorry. I appreciate it. Make it move.
No, I was just gonna see, did you get a chance to see
Yep.
the stuff in the second? Okay.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, it's no problem. I just, I was working on preschool stuff, so I didn't get to it right away, but.
Yeah, I saw it, thank you so
Good.
much.
Any other questions? Second? Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is approval of tentative budget for the 2019-2020.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Thank you.
Your numbers are making me sweat.
Me too. Sorry, I didn't get these ahead of time. I was at the Quest parent meeting. I was running a couple minutes late. I sent out quite a bit of information with the email that I sent with that. So if no one has any questions, I mean, obviously we have some positions that have been added since the time we did the draft budget. It's about 500,000 more. We had the, yeah, I see everybody twitching a little bit too. You know, we had the 1% raise. We had these additional positions, preschool, to be quite honest, is a drain, and we knew that was coming. Those are all things that will improve with time. I think, yeah, we may not have, you know, a lot of kids right now, but I think that will build steam as we go through the year, and hopefully, you know, in the subsequent years, into the point where we can add the 4th classroom. And we did, you're right, there was some tuition added in the budget. That's only like 10 kids. And I think that's a feasible number. I didn't want to put it too high and miss the target. But I think certainly as we go, I think an average of 10 throughout the year is not unattainable to get to that point. The main point that I wanted to make with this, and what I sent in the email the other day, that a lot of this relies on a healthy carryover from this year, which I think we'll have. We won't have any trouble missing that. But that is all generated from kind of having revenues come in a little lower or a little above what we budget, and expenses coming a little lower, and that's kind of how we play that. Contingency is a part of that. The problem with that is that is like cash in your savings account. So once you spend it, it's gone. So we spend that number down, it's not there next year. So we will need to hit these targets and then some for revenue. You know, and like I said, I don't mean to be I'm not trying to be an alarmist. We've had these kind of budgets before some of you guys were here, where you have just a lot of stuff. It's just an outcrop of our strong growth that we have right now. You know, and that's the kind of stuff that happens, when you're growing, you know, there are some pains, with it, we'll catch back up. The important part is we have to try to ride that fine line of, okay, we're bringing in as much, like with tuition kids and stuff, and we talk about that with this, first grade and the kindergarten, like, we've already got these expenses on the book, we're gonna take as many kids as we can take to maximize the revenue to offset that. So we try to be cognizant of that, but we'll need to hit those numbers. I don't think this is a, you know, it's not like a doomsday budget, but it is quite a bit higher. And the one wild card that I think we have, that we don't quite have a handle on just yet, and we won't know until we get them, are like utility expenses at the preschool. We don't have any buildings that are like that size, so, you know, I guess as best that I could, and that won't be something, you know, it's not gonna be like 10 times higher than what we thought, it might be double, we don't know.
Right.
But we try to come up with a reasonable number, there, and we'll, you know, improve those things as we go. But we've never had a whole new building ever, like that, so it's kind of a little bit of a crapshoot. And it's, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, it's all electric, or is there any gas, like, for the kitchen, or is it, everything's electric there? So, you know, I think, natural gas is cheaper right now, but, you know,
It is, we get an all electric rate though.
Yeah.
We get a certain percentage, and I think maybe with this middle school renovation, I think we
Yeah, we
dropped enough
should be.
gas, where we're actually gonna get a different electric rate on our utility bills. So I think it's gonna help.
so, yeah, so those things should help. You know, but again, we're growing, this is part of it. We've had this before, you know, when we added the middle school. This was a similar type of, drastic increase to the budget, and we've been fine since then. Like I said, I don't want to be an alarmist, but just be aware we are going to have to hit these targets, or at some point we will have to do something about it. And you know, there are only a couple of things you can do, and it's increase revenues and cut expenses, and that means programs, and nobody wants to do that. But just be aware we will need to hit these numbers, and that's something we'll keep a close eye on as we go throughout the year and into next year's budget. But I just want you to be aware of that.
The revenue from the rental property, do we have a lease sign for that, or do we estimate that?
We do not. Currently, we're under the pre-existing lease. We kind of became a new leaseholder. It will be less than that because we're taking some of the space in the back from them. They're supposed to be out of there by July 1st. And Mr. Ruberg and I have been working on new lease documents that will take effect July 1st. The rent will be right at $20,000 a year, and that's what I have budgeted.
Okay.
And we just kind of hope to break even on that property. Right now, I don't know how many of you are from around here, like long-term, but that building is like from the 1960s, and a lot of it hasn't been approved since then. So we'll have some things like a garage door and stuff, minor one-time type things that we'll have to address, with the idea that we may have students in there at some point when it needs to be as safe as possible, just like all the other facilities that we have in it. So we'll be cleaning that up, but we're going to try to stay within our rent amount for improvements at that site. You know, we may have more expenditures this year and try to recoup it over next year, but yeah, we anticipate. I've already kind of negotiated that rate. We're just waiting. He was looking at some things, and Mr. Ruberg was working on redoing the lease a couple of terms that neither us or he were thrilled about, and we'll have that in place in July. Other than that, are there any questions? I know it's a lot of stuff. It's 40 pages of, you know, lines of things, but I've kind of tried to condense it down to make sense, and what's highlighted in red there is kind of, you know, what is new.
Yeah, I really appreciate the kind of executive summary top sheets.
Yeah.
I think those are great. That helps when we're going
You just
through
get
the
lost in
budget.
the weeds and 37 pages of stuff without it, I think.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I mean, we could go over a budget every month, and I think it's too much for you to know what all of those things are, and, you know, what goes into them and things, so that's why I have me.
Any other questions for Kevin on this?
I appreciate you, Kevin.
Yeah, no problem. We'll have some minor changes, you know, some of these positions, we don't know who they are yet. we'll have some tweaks to it, working budget time, hopefully those kind of net out to be roughly the same, but that's typically what happens, so.
Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of payroll date for the 2019-2020.
I'll make it.
First by David, discussion or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the 2019-2020 depository bonds in Heritage Bank.
I'll make it.
First by Heather, discussions or questions?
I was just gonna touch on it just for the,
Mhm.
just for everybody, but a couple of you knew. This is something that we go through, and it's basically the bank saying, hey, we're gonna collateralize your deposits up to 103% of what you have minus the FDIC amount, which I think is gonna stay permanently at 250,000 now. But it's just basically a agreement saying that the state forcing them to say, hey, we're gonna collateralize your stuff, you're covered, in case anything would happen with the bank industry, so.
Is there a second? Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the 2019-2020 fidelity bonds through Crawford Insurance for K. Ryan and B. Robinson.
I'll make it.
Discussions or questions, information?
Just again, this is a standard thing we have to do every year. You're basically taking out an insurance policy on Brittany and I because we have access to the accounts, that if we steal money, you can recover it. You have to send us to jail, but I think that's a pretty fair trade. Yeah, so that's a normal thing. All districts have to do it. We actually only have to, you only have to cover me, but some of the other districts that have had issues, it's been their payroll people, and I think it's just better if you cover both. You know, you only get two people, they're like $600, it's worth the investment.
Is there a second? Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval for pay application 12 for Morale Construction for the Walton Roner Early Childhood Center.
I'll make it.
First by Heather, discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by Kyle, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of pay application 3 for Morale Construction for the Walton Roner Middle School renovation.
I'll make it.
First by Kyle, discussion or question? Is there a second? Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the 2019-2020 Walton Roner Technology Plan.
I'll make it.
First by David, discussions or questions?
I had a couple of questions on this one. In the technology plan on, I think it's page 6, it talks about student voice. And so it mentions that students can be surveyed. How often are we surveying students? Like what kind of results do we get from that? Do we think that's working?
So it's a technology survey. I believe Tracy Bazika had given a survey earlier this year. But going forward, I wanted to do a survey of 4th grade, 8th grade, those transition years.
Yep.
To see what the kids think about technology that we're using, where they want to be, where they think we should be, things like that. So, yeah.
There are also some standard surveys we're required to perform. For example, every other year, we're required to complete a Title IX survey to look at potential sports or activities to add at the high school level. So we do all that through Infinite Campus.
Yes, some Infinite Campus, some Google Forms, a variety of stuff that we do surveys through.
And then for the method, I think it just lists that there is a method. Do we need to be more descriptive than that? I don't remember exactly what the language was, but.
Was it on that same page?
Yeah, it just says we do have a method to survey students and plan to do so in 2019-2020 school
Yeah,
year.
the method would be using Google Forms. We'll put the link in Infinite Campus, the kids will sign in, fill out the survey, and then we'll go through the results. Yes.
And then, District Technology Plan AA-3, there's a upgrade of networking equipment that's $175,000. Is that a one-time charge, an ongoing charge?
Yeah, it'll be a one-time deal, so it's part of the federal E-rate program. So it's a large number, but because we participate in that, we'll get a discount on the stuff that we buy, so we get reimbursed. So I've been working with Kevin, and we have a company that helps us go through all that paperwork. It's a lot of federal paperwork. for.
It's a significant number. What do we get, like 40% of that back?
Correct, yeah, it's based on our free and reduced program. And, I think it comes in cycles. So the state, really pushed school districts this year to utilize that funds, because there's the possibility that, I think it's over the summer, that they might do away with it, they might continue that program. We're kind of in limbo, and the state has been operating on the assumption that things will stay the same, and they pushed for us to use those funds.
If I had to guess, that probably runs on the federal fiscal year, which is September 30. There's no guarantee, like some years have changed. We used to get more reimbursement, like on our phone. Now it's just internet connection that we paid for, like through Spectrum or whatever.
Right,
They call themselves today, through that stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, but some of the stuff we kind of piggybacked along with the construction project that's
Right.
going on here to kind of replace our brain and spine of our network, and we're able to utilize some construction funds for part of that big number, that $180,000 number or whatever.
Yeah, the E-rate
and
money-
we get some of it back.
E-rate money only applies to, K through 12 buildings and facilities. So the other ones, we have to do the cost. But
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Does anybody have anything else for Jason? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of contract for occupational therapy services with Kristen D. Kelly for 2019-2020.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions?
Is this the same person that we're using? Okay. Because I recognize the step ahead, but I didn't recognize this name.
Any other questions? Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of a contract for the physical therapy services with a step ahead pediatric therapy for the 2019-2020.
I'll make it.
First by David. Questions or discussion?
Is there an increase or is that the same per hour?
Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the KDE district funding assurances.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions?
Thank you for the correcting that.
Thanks
think
for
we're
having
on
eagle eyes.
Others.
It's like you go through that and you start to not really think about what you're reading anymore, so.
Any other questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the first reading of policy 09.123, absences and excuses.
Excuses?
Excuses.
I'll make it.
Just sounded weird. Okay, Heather. Discussion or question?
A question, just a clarifying question. When we talk about absences, like an event, like an instance, if there's a death in the family and a child misses 2 days, so they have to travel somewhere to go to that, does that count as one event or does that count as 2 events if they've missed 2 days?
If it's 2 days, I believe would count as 2 events. However, in a situation such as that, principals have latitude to give a, quote, principal's excuse for extenuating circumstances. If a child has to be out of town, so that those days are not going to count against the total. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, that makes sense. Okay, that's the only question I had.
Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the 2019-2020 District Code of Conduct.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions?
When is this being printed? Because obviously there's some changes, like, that need to be made now. Because this stuff has Mr. Hartman at the elementary
Right, just
principal.
declare
and-
the things.
Do you know when we send this off to printer?
I don't, is this the second reading?
It
I think
is.
they were holding on that, so I'm sure it hasn't been sent until this is approved tonight, so I'm not sure who's even doing that. There should
Trisha's
be
working.
time.
Trisha's working on it, and she just has stuff open
Right.
to insert
And,
personnel.
Yeah, I mean, and we've had some stuff like that with like the district, like calendars and stuff that we hand out where we haven't known who's gonna be
The principal.
filling positions, so they won't necessarily wait until, you know, 3 weeks from now to do that though. So I mean, just kind of have it open, you know,
Right.
let's say elementary principal or something instead of Mr. Hartman.
Yeah.
I have a quick question about the like for girls, the shorts versus the skirts are different measurements. Wouldn't it make it simpler if it was, why is there a difference in how that is? I don't even remember what page it is.
It's in there.
I just caught one's
Fingertips.
3 inches and one is fingertips.
Fingertips.
Well, I guess with the skirt, it's probably
There's no-
worried about bending,
There's no like short part to it, you know, it's just open.
yeah, like, you know, bending over.
Can you measure 3 inches from the knee on all of it?
I mean, yeah, you can, but
I was just curious why.
you got different heights, I think is what that was going for, was like the kids are different. Like I know, like with my daughter, hers is way different than her friend who was 6 inches shorter than her.
Oh, okay.
But I think the skirt would be.
I mean, it's just one. I don't know what I'm wearing that I don't know how I got to
No, I'm
measure
just
before I
saying,
get dressed
the
there.
shorts are, the shorts, has anybody tried to dress a 5'8" sixth grader? It's not really easy. It's not really easy when you're doing that because it's hard, but her fingertips are covered. But by no means is it 3 inches from the knee, and so it's difficult, extremely difficult. So her friend who was 6 inches shorter than her, who was a normal size sixth grader, it's very easy to do that. That's what I was saying.
Right.
But skirt wise, I think is because there's nothing there, it's just open. If you bend over and your hiney's hanging out, because like Reese's, you know, it's gonna be right here for the shorts. So if she bends over, girl wise.
When we go through this thing, we have the people literally at the table who have to enforce this. And, you know, at the high school, that was Adam, at the middle school, it's Troy.
I agree with what you're saying. It makes
I
it
was just
easier.
going for the clarification. You know.
Right.
My daughter's wearing jeans or
Right.
shorts that go to her knees, so I'm not worried about it.
And
I'm
it's
just-
easier to be the
When
same.
you're looking
like
at it, you go, why are they, wouldn't they make it simpler if there was
Yeah.
just one measurement?
Yeah.
Maybe go past the knees and call it a day.
Good luck with that. Yeah, you got the rest boys. Good luck with that.
As a mom, good luck finding that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Just
saying.
wear
That's the
shorts.
difference when you have a
Hey, when you're
super
4'11", good luck finding that.
Yeah, when you're not the normal standard size.
Thank you.
Not real easy. I agree. But I see what you're saying, like
That
make it
was-
standard
Yeah,
across
I mean,
the
I'm not
board.
saying, I
Yeah.
was just curious as
I
to
know.
why,
Right.
why one reads one way and the other, that's where
Right.
some confusion comes in.
Right, no, I would agree with that. I agree.
So, that was it.
Now is that clear as mud?
Clear as mud, just like the cold shoulder.
Okay. We have to educate him on the fashion trends these days.
I only have one girl for a reason.
Any other questions on that? David, you look perplexed.
No, I don't have any other
Oh, okay.
questions. I was just saying no.
Okay. Let's see, where are we at with that? Second, that's right. Heather first, David first, who's second?
I'll second.
Second, Kyle, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is approval of the district wellness policy.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussion or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the addition of a primary teacher. First by Kyle. Discussion or questions? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Heather, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the addition of an elementary teacher for STEM.
I'll make it.
First by Kyle,
I'll let you have it.
I thought that was a neat idea. I thought that was a neat.
any other questions or?
I had a couple questions about this. So I love the idea of having a STEM teacher for the elementary school. I think it's a fantastic idea. I get a little nervous as I think about this budget that we've got and adding this position in as well. And reading through the rationale that you had provided, Rob, earlier about, it's not planning period, is it planning period?
Referring to common planning.
Common planning, yes,
For
so.
grade level teachers, as they take their planning, then they go to their rotational
Yes,
class. Yeah.
so this would alleviate some stress there and provide space for that. I don't know if we've looked at any other options. It just makes me nervous because I think it's fantastic. I'd love to be able to do this in a normal year, would be a slam dunk, but this one makes me nervous.
I understand.
Yes, I can speak to that.
Yeah.
We have looked at all options, and we've actually tried the other option. I think you may have even been on our council during the time when we did that. And it's an utter disaster when you try to take too many kids and plug them into a very finite space like an art class or a music class. And so when you've got a grade level like first grade that's got 6 classes and only 5 places to put them, it doesn't work. We tried that. We've been down that road. It just doesn't work. You know, as you can see on my little thing that I sent you there, we're kind of band-aiding a little bit with the help of our speech teacher to pilot a little class for us here this year for kindergarten, but that may not be sustainable, and it might not work either. We're going to try it and see if it works. But what this is going to ultimately do for us, I hear you. I know this is a bad year for this to come up, but every year that goes forward, starting this year, we're going to be adding a 6th class to every grade level each year. So this is the beginning of a multi-year investment and a solution to a problem that we know we're going to have. We're going to have it this year. It's not going to be quite as bad this year because, as you can see there, we still do have library as an option. But we are going to have an issue. You know, it's going to keep increasing each year. There's no way around that because these big six section grade levels are just going to keep coming down the pike. My wife teaches at New Haven right now, and they've got grade levels that are at the 7 to 8 range. So we're a little lucky in a way, but this is just the beginning of the way. You always hear about the changing clientele. Part of that change is just the sheer numbers we're going to be facing. And we feel that a little bit ahead of everybody else, normally speaking. So this will alleviate that, and it will do it in a way that provides a ton of benefit for our kids. There are other specials out there we could have kind of looked at, but we felt like the STEM rotational class would provide the most bang for our buck, and we can do it school-wide. So that's the only rationale I can give you, but yes, I can tell you we have looked at other solutions to keep common planning intact, which is extremely important to your PLC philosophy. That's really the only way to do it. The high school achieves that with their late start days that they have. The middle school can still achieve that with their rotational classes. So our way of doing that is with our specials. But yeah, you just don't want to put too many kids in a classroom. So if there's any other questions you might have about what is going on that thing I said, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Anybody else? Kyle gave me the first one. Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the addition of a cook baker, 4 hours a day position for the Early Childhood Center.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions?
Board members, I would like to point out, this is one of those positions like the fourth preschool teacher and the last aide that would go in that fourth preschool classroom. We're not going to fill this unless we absolutely need it. We're going to try to have an instructional aide who has experience working in food service, in our kitchens, help out during the middle of the day in our kitchen at our preschool. So hopefully we don't have to fill this position. But we wanted to go ahead and get your blessing on this so that if we needed to fill this in mid-September, early September, we could do it. We'll try not to do that. We're gonna try this other option first, but felt like it would be a good idea to go ahead and ask you to create the job, in case we need it.
Any other questions? Is there a second?
I'll second it. Is that written down in like stipulation?
We can put that in minutes. Can we do that, Carrie?
I think we should do that.
Just go ahead and put that in minutes. That we will only fill it if it's absolutely necessary, sure.
Are you good, Carrie? With what you need there? So Stacy, is there, okay, all in favor?
Oh, who had the second? I'm
That
sorry.
was Stacy.
Stacy, all right,
And then all in favor, motion passed 5-0.
thank you.
You're welcome. Next is the approval of the addition of a district computer technician.
I'll make it.
First by Stacy. Discussions or questions?
Jason, would you like to speak to this for just a second?
Sure.
Explain what we're doing here, why we're doing it.
So, you know, right before Dan retired, essentially this would be my position. And when Dan left, I continued on with my position, and I was doing Dan's position since then. And, you know, we continue to grow. I was just looking at, kind of got out my calculator here, and a lot of school districts here are going one-to-one. So more devices per student. And there is growth in every student, each of us. We all have multiple accounts now. So if we have 1,700 students, 10 accounts per student, that's 17,000 accounts. It is a huge burden on us. And with the addition of this position, we can start addressing some of those needs and the things that we want to start working towards one-to-one. Kind of like with Ms. Knatzer earlier, talking about the cell phones. We moved to, I know the high school really wants to move to one-to-one, so we can kind of start moving away from cell phones. And that was a big philosophy for a long time. These kids are bringing in devices, cell phones, let's try and utilize that without taking the additional cost. But it just didn't pan out. One-to-one is really probably the way to move. And this will help us take steps in that direction.
Where will this person be located?
So they will be, it'll be a district-wide position.
Right.
So essentially, they're gonna do what I was doing before, and they'll be in with Vivi and Angela in the technology suite.
Do they have to be in with us?
Yes. You provide great guidance. Vivi and
I
Angela are
personally
awesome.
don't think that's a good idea. No, I'm very serious about that, because we don't know who we're gonna get, and the person, I don't wanna say this, it just isn't a good idea to be in there with students. I think they need to be located someplace else centrally. It's already packed enough in there. We've got Tracy in there, we have me in there, we've got Angela in there, this would be a fourth adult.
How about this? Here, I can tell you this, here's where they won't be located. They won't be located in central office. They'll be located in a school.
What about, is Mindy in your old room?
So Mindy's at the
elementary?
elementary school,
But is
yeah,
that
my
your
old
old
room at
space?
the elementary
Okay.
school.
Is there not room for them in there?
No, that's a really tight space at the
Okay.
elementary school,
Well,
but
try to
Tracy
know
will be
that.
moving out, so at some point, with all these middle school moves, we'll move, the Frisky agent is in the middle school, they will move to the basement of the middle school. Tracy will then move to that office. that leaves 3 spaces in the classroom, or if we find someplace else, we can put them there.
So I think the need would be more on this campus than out at the elementary campus as far as that.
Yeah, and when I was in that position, I tried to go out to the elementary school once or twice a week, tried to schedule a day to go out there, so this person would not always be in the classroom with them. We'll be over at the elementary school sometimes, or the athletic complex, transportation, so on.
Right.
That's correct. Just to advocate a little bit for this position, we have more students, a lot more devices now than we had, 2 years ago? When Dan left, and we're doing it with 1 less staff member, than we had. And that is not a candle that can be burned at both ends for an indefinite amount of time.
A lot of accounts get created when a student comes in. So, and the teachers want that right away.
Students come in, staff comes in, we're constantly creating, turning off. That goes back to our data security too, making sure that the state did a big push this year. Turn off things, don't leave them just sit. So yeah, we're
That's what we
constantly
were
trying to
doing
keep up with
today.
that stuff. Yeah.
You've got to, like today, for instance, the seniors, you've got to put them all in a folder, then you have to disable them all, then you've got to go to all the programs that the seniors are in, disable all those or suspend them. I mean, just today alone, probably 6 hours of doing that, and I'm still not halfway done. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Jason or Dee? Is there a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. And Jason, thank you for taking it on for the past couple of years. Appreciate that. Next is the approval of the Walton Verona Middle School Quest Trip Summer of 2019.
I'll make it.
First by David. Here's my problem that I think we've stated many a times.
Yeah.
They took the field trip today, we're just not finding out about it.
There's a list of them. One of them was today.
Right, but we've asked like 100 times to give us this stuff ahead of time, and they've known about it, and we didn't know about field trips today.
Is this an every year thing with middle school quest or field trips in
They
general?
do stuff, field trips in general, this is not a chapter middle school quest by any
Okay.
means, no.
Okay,
But like, we were getting things that, like, we would get at before the board meeting, the field trip happened last week,
okay.
in the past.
We can,
I mean, I'm sure this quest. trip
Yeah, this has been on-
planned
Right, that's what we're
months ago
saying.
that could have been approved already.
I will say that this board meeting got pushed back because of graduation.
True.
So it would typically would have been.
Last week,
Would have been a
true.
week ago.
we can address that. I can address that.
And I honestly had thought, I mean, I think you can go back to the minutes, I did a kudos because a while back, they gave us this list for the whole year, and we were like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was like, this happened today.
Okay.
So, and that's not against middle school quest by any means, I'm just making a general statement. Any other comments or questions? Is there a second?
Fun summer.
Yeah, those look good.
I'll second if I didn't.
No, David did. Second by Heather, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the common carriers, Southwest Airlines, and the budget rent-a-car for a quest trip to Seattle.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussions or questions? No, you cannot go. You did not participate or do a project. Apply.
Do a rain study on your way to Seattle.
Is there a second? Second by Stacy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is the approval of the driver agreement for the board-owned vehicle, or Gayhart.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions? Is there a second? Second by Kyle. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Next is to enter into executive session to evaluate superintendent, KRS 61.8101K.
I'll make it.
First by Heather. Discussions or questions?
Something in others, can I do that or not?
Do what?
Wait till the next meeting?
Yep.
Yeah, just hang on to it or talk about it later.
That's fine.
First by Heather, discussions or questions? Second by Stacy, all in favor? Motion passes 5-0. We are now into executive session. Thank you guys for coming, we appreciate your attendance. You guys can use your